Probably shouldn't be doing that around a blind corner, my friend. I love everything about this car, but I just can't see it in my own garage. 2025 Lexus LC 500. I love these things, but I would never buy one. I'm gonna tell you why later in this video. So we're powered by the one and only 2UR GSE engine. That's the 5-liter naturally aspirated V8, making 471 horsepower at 7,100 RPM, 398 pound-feet of torque at 4,800 RPM with a 7,300 RPM redline, and oh, is it delicious. That is mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Keep in mind, this is a different transmission than what is used in the IS500, which has the same engine, but a different 8-speed, which is a lot worse. I'll tell you why this is better when we start driving it. It weighs just under 4,300 pounds as a coupe, and if you want to get a convertible, you're going to pay not only the price of decreased structural rigidity, but also 300 pounds as well. We have a 52-48 front to rear weight distribution, multi-link suspension, both front and rear, which you don't really see that often. Of course, electric power steering. Now, this does not have the optional performance package, which is a crowd favorite, especially for the driving enthusiasts, that gives you the active rear steer, the LSD, and the variable ratio steering. However, this has the bespoke package, and that does give you some of those goodies. There's actually a bit of confusion as to what the bespoke package does and does not include. So other than the colors and the cosmetic stuff, it looks like you get the 21-inch forged wheels, upgraded Mark Levinson audio, the heads-up display, the carbon fiber roof, and LSD, but you do not get rear steer. What's cool for the 2025 model year is they have further improved the chassis rigidity, both at the front and rear. So in the front, we have some underfloor braces, and at the rear, we have some suspension tower bracing, and also some panel reinforcements beneath the center tunnel. Now, the base MSRP is $99,000, here as spec'd $110,000. Now, the cool thing about this 2UR GSE engine is that although it was primarily developed by Toyota's Performance Engineering Division, and again, it's used in the RCF and the IS500, Yamaha actually contributed to some sound tuning. So Yamaha was much more involved with the LFA, but even here with the 2UR GSE, they did have a role, at least with the sound tuning for both the intake and the exhaust, more specifically the sound generator and the resonance chambers. So overall, they've helped create that signature crescendo as you near the 7,300 RPM redline. And they also did some structural tuning of the rear muffler for harmonic resonance, which is actually similar to how they treated the LFA's titanium system as well. The interior on these LCs is just gorgeous, punches way above its weight class in terms of price. By the way, the seat ventilators, very powerful, very effective. I'm a fan. A few little quirks. So we have a heads-up display, as you can see, but you can't really set the height. I've played around with the settings. There's no height adjustment. But when you set the memory seats here, it'll figure out how high or low it should be based on how far your seat is, how tall you are. But the issue is that we all have different torso heights, right? Torso lengths. So it's actually not really where I want it to be right now. All I have to do is press this button and boom, it turns off. I still like the idea though. I thought that was a very nice touch to automatically set it. It just needs a little bit of fine tuning. Maybe like a scroll or something just to let the user make fine adjustments. But yeah, man, this interior is like impeccable. The build quality, the design, even after all these years, it is gorgeous, still feels super modern. Obviously, we have Apple CarPlay now for 2025. Before we had a much smaller screen, large screen, touch display. It doesn't really quite integrate into the dash as well as the prior smaller screen, but I think it still works. And of course, the LFA-inspired moving tack like that, just such a cool feature. Never really gets old. Makes the car feel even more special. As you can see right here, Lexus LC bespoke build. And we're gonna set our drive mode here to Sport Plus. Now in Sport Plus, you're gonna get a little bit more of that jolt between shifts, faster, harsher shifts, which we enjoy. Gonna go down to manual. And this engine is the centerpiece. What an incredible marvel of engineering to have this in 2025 when everyone else is going small displacement, forced induction, hybrid. It's a little bit conservative with the shifts. It's not gonna let you downshift all the way up to redline, but it's a lot better than most of these other automatic slush box torque converter transmissions. Now you feel the heft as you corner, But the thing that surprises me about driving it this time is that the front end actually feels noticeably sharper and more immediate. Like the slightest input with your steering wheel is going to translate to movement at the front end. And I have reviewed other prior model years of the LC500, and I'm not sure if either I'm misremembering or maybe there was something else with the alignment, or maybe it really is the chassis bracing making the front end feel a little bit more sharp, a little bit more immediate by reducing that flex. And I've been enjoying this car more so than the other times I've driven it, because I think the other times I've driven it, it's only been on the canyons, and this car isn't designed obviously to be a canyon carver. It's a GT, and it's a glorious GT at $100,000. You get so much value in terms of the sound, the character, the specialness, the interior quality. Is it the fastest GT? No, but it's certainly fast enough. I don't think you're going to be wanting for more performance and more speed. And the thing I love about the transmission, first of all, when you're pushing it hard, especially at higher RPMs, it's actually quite quick. Now, if you're at mid-range or lower RPMs, it's obviously going to be a lot slower. That's expected. But the greatest thing about the transmission is that it's 10-speed. And the reason why that's so good is not because of fuel efficiency and always being in the torque band and whatever else, which is technically, yes, that is better about a 10-speed automatic transmission. But what I appreciate is that it allows you to have so much more fun with this acoustic instrument, right? This engine that is just so fun to upshift and downshift. And you just get more gears, tighter gears to do that with. Each of these downshifts are just so delicious. Now the suspension is, again, this is a GT. It is incredibly comfortable, incredibly quiet. I've actually been driving it around LA for the last day or so, and it makes the pain of LA traffic more manageable. It's still painful, but not quite as much. But the different drive modes here, they don't actually change the car all that much. I mean, sure, when you go to comfort and you putter around town, it's very quiet and comfortable, but even in Sport Plus, you know, the engine is a little bit more forward and your throttle map is a little bit different. Your steering is still pretty numb and the weighting is medium light. It's not super light like, you know, the 2000s hydraulic assisted racks, but it's on the lighter end, which makes sense, it's a GT. But also with the adaptive dampers, there's not a really big magnitude change between the softer and the firmer settings. God, I love these downshifts. Probably shouldn't be doing that around a blind corner, my friend. Now, one of my favorite things about this car is how dialed all the inputs are. Now, the prior model years that I have driven of the LC500, there was always something that felt kind of off. Like, sometimes the steering was just like really light, right off center, then it would weight up artificially. Like here, consistent weighting, very accurate front end, feels noticeably more accurate than the other examples I've driven. And obviously not much feedback, but there's like a little bit there, but there's no dynamic loading. It's gonna have pretty constant weighting all the way through, even if you load up the front tires, which is fine, this is a GT. But all the other inputs too, like just the actuation of these paddles, it feels great. They're not overly like magnetic and, you know, like a sim racing rig where you have that magnetic paddle shifter that just kind of like snap, snap, snap very loud, but it has this very intentional, crisp, yet high quality feeling actuation to the shift lever. You can't actually shift with the gear shift. And if I am nitpicking, I do think the gear shift reminds me a little bit too much of the Prius. Not just with the shape, but even like the way that you get into drive and reverse and neutral and all those things. The brake and the throttle are also calibrated just excellently. The brake pedal is not like overly firm like a sports car, but it still gives you that level of confidence as you get into it. It has a higher resolution, more travel. Throttle pedal as well. Even in Sport Plus mode, they don't make it binary. There's still a high degree of resolution, even if the throttle mapping is now more aggressive, more sporty. And then the seating position, you can get in a pretty optimal position for a GT. The wheel telescopes pretty far out. You're sitting decently low. You obviously don't want to sit quite as low as you would in a GT3 as an example. It's just such a well done car. So the question then arises, okay, Kevin, if you love this car so much, why would you not buy one? And I really do appreciate what this car is, and I'm so glad that it exists. But the reason I can't ever see myself buying one is simply because of the use case. You don't buy this car if you want a dedicated sports car. It's a GT, right? So it's comfortable, it has a special engine, great for eating up highway miles in comfort. But, you know, the rear luggage room, the trunk space, it's really small. The rear seats aren't really usable. And for a car that is not a dedicated sports car, for me, it's just too compromised. I wouldn't be able to justify a vehicle like that. I love everything about this car, but I just can't see it in my own garage. So for my use case, because I do enjoy going to the track and such, I want harder core dedicated sports cars, and then I want something that is very much not sporty, but is also more practical. So for me, right now I drive a CX-50. I'm not comparing a CX-50 to this, don't worry. But I want something that is larger. I want something that I can fit my bicycle in the back and take a bunch of luggage and, you know, have some ground clearance for when I go camping or whatever, or fishing, and, you know, can go over the, you know, go over semi-rough terrain, not proper off-roading, but you know what I mean. So in other words, I'm just not the target audience for this, because I want to go to the racetrack and have a dedicated sports car, and then I want to have a comfortable daily driver. And here, this is better for someone who wants a single vehicle that is going to feel incredibly special driving on the street. They have no interest going to the track, and when they go on the canyons, they don't want to go past like 6/10, because the car's just too heavy for that. It's not designed for that. It's a bit too wallowy. Even when you go into the stiffer suspension settings, it's still very soft and very comfortable, which again, I'm enjoying driving this car in the canyons, but I would just enjoy a dedicated sports car more. God, this engine is just something else. In 2025, we are so fortunate to have something like this. Let's give you one last pull in the tunnel. And there you have it, my friends, the 2025 Lexus LC 500, a car that I absolutely love, but definitely a car that I would never own myself. That's a pretty nice 360 cam as well. All right, my friends, let me know what you think. Big shout out to Lexus for loaning me this vehicle for review. If you want your car reviewed, visit us on jabalandcars.com. Fill out the form on the homepage. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in that next one.